Good morning.
Good morning to you. I look a little worse for the wear because I'm on vacation and I've been in the sun all day and I'm happy to talk to you. But that's why I look a little bit like I just got out of being baked alive in Montenegro because I did.
Well, that's amazing. If I look worse for the wear because it's goddamn 7 a.m. in Encinitas, California.
That's funny.
Welcome back to the Table Rush Talk Show, where we dive deep into entrepreneurship, marketing, and personal growth. I'm your host, Misha Zvagansoff, and today's guest is Brook Shepard, the data assassin behind Mason Interactive. He slices through marketing fluff with results, not buzzwords, and he's here to show you how to outsmart the ad game. Brock, welcome to the show. Brook, excuse me, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Misha. I'm very happy to be here.
So, Brook, you founded Mason Interactive over a decade ago, and your approach has helped everyone from e-commerce startups to healthcare giants scale fast and smart. What are people really hiring you for today? What's the promise you deliver on over and over again?
That is a fantastic question, actually, even though it's just a starter, but it's interesting. So they're hiring us for a series of processes. They're hiring us for a mix of consulting. They're hiring us for strategy and execution, all wrapped up in a fee that takes care of all of that. I will say that it's fluid, and some clients are hiring us just for execution, and some are hiring us more for strategy, but we like it best when they're hiring us for all those things together. That's a separate question from like, what are they actually hiring us for, which might be media buying or SEO. But we're wrapping that up together, and we're hoping to help people grow and beat the competition by leveraging the power of data. We have over $1 billion of assets managed, so we can see trends that no one client's going to see, to leverage that data along with the power of creativity, which is where the industry is at right now, to drive exceptional results for our clients.
Boy, where do we want to go here? So SEO, let's see, in 10 seconds or less, you're basically helping people get their ads, their SEO, grow their brand, drive traffic, drive leads, drive conversions, some mix of that.
10 seconds or less. I'd love to talk about indisputable thermodynamic laws of this business, but the short version is 10 seconds or less, we help you sell your stuff on the internet. And that debases what I do for a living, but it's accurate. We help you sell your product or your service on the internet.
I love it. And so take us back. What made you launch Mason Interactive in the first place? Was there a moment where you realized data and design don't need to live in separate silos? It sounds like you're data type of a...
Yeah, the design part came later. So I started working at one of the very first search engine marketing firms. It was called Send Traffic. And this was in 2004 or 3. And this is before iCrossing really had a presence in this. And there were two very early companies that did this on Long Island and in New York, and a suburb of New York in Long Island. And I was at one of them, and I really enjoyed that job. I got in early. I had a first mover advantage. The company had a first mover advantage, and I really enjoyed it, and I was good at it, and I was part of a lot of really high growth success stories, and I had a lot of fun doing it. What happened was that company went public and then went private again, and all of a sudden it was a different company than the one I had started at. And honestly, they pushed out the top 4 people at the company, and I was number 3 or 4, depending on how you want to look at it. And so I decided that at that point in my life, right? Well, I don't want to do an agency again. I've done an agency. I've been part of growing an agency from 5 to 40 people or 30 people. I don't want to do that again. I'm going to go work at a software company. And I worked at a software company. And what I found is that I was very bad at it. I didn't enjoy it because I didn't enjoy it, right? I didn't enjoy showing up to work every day. I missed the human interaction. So I was not good at it. And that's why. It's not that I couldn't do the work, because I wasn't motivated. And so I decided to start my own agency, and I did it with my two most co-owners, 2 partners who invested and had actually worked 4 years ago to different things. That really came out of, I liked what I was doing. I was good at it because I liked what I was doing. I tried something else, and then I thought, well, why reinvent the wheel? I know I can do this. I know I like doing it, so let's do it again. And my wife very graciously let me stick to business and give up all hope of income for a couple of years 17 years ago when she was pregnant with our first and only child. She was really a trooper to be like, sure, go do it. And so, yeah, I did it because I really liked it and I wasn't feeling satisfied in the job I had.
So you said I was good at it. This is in 2006. You started Send Traffic. You're good at it. This may be a silly question, but good at what?
Well, I worked at Send Traffic. I was one of the early employees. I didn't start it. I started Mason later at Send Traffic because I didn't want the guys at Send Traffic to hear this and get mad at me because we're friends. I'm trying to correct you.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
I want to make them feel represented. So at that point in time, what was happening was this is very early days of internet advertising, right? Facebook did not exist at this point. Later it did at that company. Facebook didn't exist. It was search engine marketing. So that was Google, but Google wasn't a big player. It was Yahoo, it was Bing, it was Devon Search, it was Jar, it was Ask Jeeves. Like Ask Jeeves used to buy us suites at Yankee games, which seems crazy. So it was all these places together. And what happened was, because we were one of the first to market, we were taking businesses live for the first time. I could legitimately say that I was part of growing these three brands. Really, I worked on from the beginning. Adam and Eve, which is an adult entertainment company, ITT Tech, which was a school, and the Hartford Insurance Company, which is an insurance company. Those are my three big clients, and you could not be more different. And I was part of, I wasn't the sole driver, but I was part of growing those businesses from spending $0 a month online to spending $1 million a month online profitably over the space of a year or 2 years, maybe in the case of one of them. So it was developing consensus within the organization about this is how we're doing this. This is how to game the system to drive more success. This is how we're going to measure success. The things that I did today. And so, yeah, it was growing those businesses and trying to get them to spend profitably, because if they are spending profitably, it means they're growing. It means we're growing. It means everyone's growing. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. I love it. And I like how it's win-win-win for everyone. Win for your company, Send Traffic. I apologize for saying, and to the founders of Send Traffic for saying that you were a founder. I misspoke. I apologize. Early employee,
okay.
Just an early employee.
Early employee, yes.
Well, I think, I've been reading the Steve Jobs books, which are amazing, super fun. I love the history of Silicon Valley and all of that. The computer revolution, all these things. I'm also reading, which is a great book. I'd highly recommend it. Apple in China, which actually doesn't go deep into Steve Jobs, but it goes deep into, Apple in China. It is incredible. It's wow. Yeah. But how right place, right time to get involved in an industry and to be able to grow with an industry. And I'm just thinking about you getting to jump into Send marketing, jump in with them, and then really, I'm familiar with ITT Tech. I'm familiar with Hartford Insurance. I'm aging myself, of course. I'm familiar with, I've heard of Adam and Eve. Should I say familiar? But to really to be on the wave of that, how exciting, how fun. Speak to that. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And I also learned a lot. One of the things that's talked about too is, so I had success there, right? And I had success, and there were a lot of common denominators between the success of those and other brands I worked on. I could mention Bar None, or there's a bunch of these brands I could talk about. One of the common denominators was me, and I don't want to take credit for, I'm not so delusional that I think I was the driving force of these things, but I was part of it. Earlier in my career, I was part of a bunch of failures. I was part of not doing well at PBS MarketWatch, and I did not do well at Newsmax. And I can talk, I was an early employee of Newsmax out of South Florida. And I can talk about the environments there not being to my liking, or me not fitting in, or I didn't like the boss. The common denominator to those places where I didn't do well was me. Like I was the thing those had in common. And so at some point you have to self-assess and say, like, am I the problem? I might not be the problem, but I'm certainly a problem. And say, okay. And so the time I worked at Send Traffic, I was a little older, and I was part of the solution, and that felt good. And it felt if I can take credit for being part of the problem here, I I can take pride and take ownership of the fact that I'm part of the solution at this new place. And so that felt really good. And then along the way, you learn a lot, right? So you learn a lot. So I went to, and I've told this story before, I'll tell both of them. I went to these two versions of this because the Hartford is a very different situation. It's very corporate, and I'd never seen anything like that. ITT, we fly to Carmel, Indiana, and I have a conversation. I talk about how excited I am to be part of growing the business, and look at how many leads I've gotten you and my team's gotten you. And the guy who runs the place said, I think he called me boy, but he said, it's great that you're here. You're nothing but an answering machine for TV, this internet, right? And that was like really dismissive, but it also wasn't untrue. It also wasn't untrue that they used to spend a lot of money on TV, and then people would go to Google and look for products, and we capitalized on that. And no one was talking about attribution models at that point. In our space, no one was talking about media mix modeling. Those things came later. And another version of that is going to Adam and Eve, and I think they're outside of Charlotte, if I remember, and going down there and talking to them and being very proud of myself and showing the graph they showed was up into the right. Sales just skyrocketed. And the marketing director said, "That's nice, but we started on our digital channel. We started from zero. So of course the sales are every month." And that was valuable. Like it was difficult to hear. In both cases, it wounded my pride, but they were both right to different degrees. I think the irony was sort of more on based than the ITT, but it was super valid to be part of this because it was literally like spending $500 a month, $1,000 a month. Okay, let's see what happens if you spend $5,000 a month. Will that be possible? Okay, what if it's 50? And it was crazy because you're dealing with ITT and they can afford it and you can affect this change. And it was really a gas to be part of that and know that you were one of the first people to be in that industry. And as Google stopped being, you used to not buy ads, kids, through Google Ads. You used to buy it through Google AdWords. And before that, you bought it through a company called GoTo. So Google didn't invent search engine marketing. They actually were partnered in sort of a bucket where you'd go to GoTo and you'd buy ads for all these different places. So that was fun to watch those things evolve and to watch Google just absolutely crush everyone. It felt like over the space of like 6 months, I'm sure it was longer. Google just flattened everyone. And then, and was like, no one went to Ask Jeeves anymore. They stopped buying those tickets to Yankees game. And it became this giant thing. And it felt like we were lucky to be in the ground floor of a nascent industry that was taking off. But also there was so much work that there wasn't a lot of like back patting and like celebrations. It was really very heads down work. I used to go to sleep at night. I would close my eyes and I would dream of Google Ads. It was burned in my retina. And that's part of how all that went. Yes, I was there early. Yes, I had compliance. Yes, I worked 15 hours a day. Like these things all went together to drive that system.
That's amazing. And I wasn't trying to downplay your success. I think the common denominator in the Steve Jobs books, they talk about Apple, but they talk about all those first companies, obviously Microsoft, Oracle, and all these companies that maybe we've heard of, depending on how much you're into, stocks, bonds, all that kind of stuff. But these people were driven. They were smart. They saw that opportunity. They took advantage of it. They worked their tails off, just like you're saying, had a lot of fun, the ups and downs, the moment where you're like, "Hey, sweetie, I'm going to start this business." And she's like, "Well, I'm pregnant." And you're like, "Well, I think we should do it anyway." And she's like, "All right, let's go. Let's rock and roll." Like the risk, the reward, all that sort of stuff. So you said Google smoked everybody. Was that like, why, how, luck, strategy? Does that question make sense?
Well, from a tactical standpoint, it was like this. Thank you for that question. From a tactical standpoint, before you would go to Google Ads, you would, as I mentioned before, you would go to GoTo, and before GoTo, it was Overture. Maybe it was Overture first and then GoTo. My memory's gone. But you go to this all-in-one platform, and all these search engines who were early Silicon Valley adapters weren't selling ads. They would sell banner ads in their own. They would sell banner ads like an MSN. You could buy those, but the keyword stuff was all done through this third party called Overture and GoTo. And you could see what everyone else was bidding. So if I bid $1 for my insurance company, for the Hartford. I could log into the platform and I could see that who's a competitor of the Hartford. It's called, let's say, the general insurance. I could see the general was paying $1.01, and therefore they were going to outrank me. So I could say we're all spending $1.02, right? Like it became like literally you would see what the competitor was spending, and you would do 1 cent more, and you would. So Google comes along and they say, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play that game. We're going to digest ourselves from being part of the Overture/GoTo network. We're going to go right to Google AdWords. And they put together a scheme that wasn't just about, and it makes a lot of sense. It wasn't just about what the cost per click was. It was the cost per click that you're willing to pay times your click-through rate. And if those are no, click-through rate is the percentage at which an impression on the internet turns into a click. So you see an ad, you click it, 100 people see an ad, 1 person clicked it, that's a 1% click-through rate. So Google wasn't, hey, whatever you pay, we're going to, highest ranking is first, second highest paying second, third highest is third. It was the what you're willing to pay versus your click-through rate, which makes a lot of business sense. It's very sophisticated because the old model, Overture and GoTo, was saying, how much do you want to pay? This model was saying, we would like to reward advertisers for having what the consumer wants. Let's just talk through this for a second. Google would rather have 2 people, if you have twice the click-through rate of a competitor and you're bidding the same. Well, Google is going to get twice as much money from the same impressions from you because your click-through rate's higher, because your ad copy is better and your brand's better. So Google's going to make the same amount they're going to make more money actually from you, even though you're bidding the same as a competitor with the worst click-through rate. So this incentivized people to create ads and create landing pages that actually gave the consumer what they wanted. So Google was putting, to my view, Google in that time was putting consumers first, as opposed to the old model, which was putting the advertiser first. And I think that's why they smoked everyone, because all of a sudden the finances of bidding meant that the best advertiser won, not the most expensive advertiser. And I think that was the big change in Google AdWords at that time.
Thank you for that. I love that. I mean, it gives me a good, I see. Thank you. I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and I just want to say there was a line on your about that struck me, and it's so clear. It's coming through right now. We've been there and done it and seen more plans and strategies than anyone. And I'm thinking of how ground floor, well, you got to fail before at some of the other places at CBS, whatever it was. I'm sorry, my brain's a little fuzzy. It is 7:26 a.m.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But then to be ground floor and have success and things like that, I get a sense of there's no BS here. There is no fluff. You're like, hey, I know what's going on. Like, I know this industry. Yeah. It's really cool. It's really refreshing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We have seen, it's interesting because I deal with it a lot because, so I know where we rank as agencies. Like I know where we are. I know other independent agencies. I know the agencies that are bigger than us that started after us. I think I know what my competitors have done right. I've watched a lot of competitors fall by the wayside. One of the things about people that are bigger than us, that are still independent agencies, which is important to me. Generally, they've taken private equity money, not all of them, but most of them that are bigger are taking private equity money to get there. And that's allowed them to lose money for a couple of years to scale. We've never done that. We've been bootstrapped from the beginning and every penny is mine. And I do think that I bring that mentality to customers. I'm not sure they always hear it. Like there is a dichotomy between, I have seen more budgets and plans than almost anyone. And there are people that are teach classes at Wharton that have seen more than me. And there's serial entrepreneurs and there's people that have been doing this longer than I have, but I've seen a lot of plans and a lot of budgets. And it's always sort of tricky to talk to a prospect who's got their bright future ahead of them and with a great product and a great financial team and a great CFO team, and everyone's incentivized the right way. And they've got the greatest widget you've ever seen, and they might. And they show me a spreadsheet, and I could tell you what's not going to work about it. And it's very delicate to do that because they don't necessarily want to hear me talk about it. And I toe the line a lot between how to make that work for people. And I haven't figured it out. You know, it can be easy because no one wants to hear me if they hire me. No one wants to hear me say, I'd like to point out what you're doing wrong now. And in my estimate, what you should do differently. Like, no one wants to have that conversation. So how do I tell the line between, and I learn a lot from my clients too. Like a lot of my clients are smarter than me and have better plans than I do. And so it has to be collaborative, but how do I give them the benefit of my knowledge? It's not always easy. I had a very tricky call with a client yesterday, here from vacation in lovely Montenegro. I had a call with a client yesterday that was tricky because what's happened in the last couple of years is that people have focused in my space on efficiency. And the way they have generally defined efficiency is by ROAS or ROI, or cost per lead. They generally defined it as, how do I get the cheapest revenue in the door? That shift, I will tell you, definitely corresponds to a rise in interest rates, which suggests that it's driven by boards who are looking at raising more money. So it is a definite shift that has happened 100% alongside interest rates going up. I do not know that interest rates caused it. I can tell you I don't know that it correlates to it. Causing it, but it certainly correlates to it. So what happens if you're looking at maximum efficiency in my space is you're going to be efficient. If you define efficient as ROI or ROAS, let's just say ROAS for now, return on ad spend. You're going to define efficiency as ROAS. You're going to want the cheapest sale. And what you're going to do that is you're going to go to look at past customers and say, please buy again via a banner ad or remarketing Google or an email marketing piece or radio ad, whatever. Or you're going to, and then when that taps out, then you're going to look at people who visited your site but didn't buy, a big pool of people. Maybe you're going to use AI to go after lookalike to those people at some point if they're sophisticated. But that's more efficient if you're defining efficiency as ROAS than getting new customers. So if you have a dashboard and you've tasked my team with hitting financial goals and the leading indicator you're using is ROAS, because you define that as efficiency, that is what the market's doing generally. And a lot of my job, and I didn't do a great job of it yesterday, but a lot of my job is talking to clients and saying, hold on, how's the underlying business? Is the underlying business going green? Like if our dashboard says it's a green light, ROAS is good, is the business doing well? No, then maybe ROAS isn't the right thing to look at. Maybe ROAS isn't the right thing. And then you get through a conversation that's about, new customers versus old customers. So let's talk about it this way. If we have a client on Savile Row in London that sells suits, and the average customer buys 2 suits, some people buy 1 suit, some people buy 20 suits. The average customer buys 2 suits at $5,000 for this client. When we first started working with them, they had good reason to be worried about efficiency. The founder had passed on the company was in receivership receivership isn't the right word. Company was going through, was settling the estate to make sure the money went where it was supposed to go. And they were doing it correctly. I apologize for saying receivership if you're listening, guys. So they had to focus on efficiency. And one of the things they were looking at was ROAS. And so we said, okay, here's how that works. We're going to look at people that bought 1 suit from you, and we're going to ask them to buy another. And that works, right? Because then they're going to buy another suit for $5,000. And let's say, these aren't their numbers, let's say it costs us $1,000 to get a customer to buy an existing customer to buy a new suit. And they'd say 5-to-1 ROAS. We worked with that for a while, and then the business began to do worse. We knew why, and we told them why, but it has to be a conversation. I can't didactically tell someone about this. What happened was we weren't getting enough new customers, because new customers look inefficient. A new customer, I said $1,000 for a $5,000, 5-to-1 ROAS. A new customer might cost not $1,000, but $1,500. And they'd say, well, 1,500 is much higher than 1. And that's not a 5 ROAS. Do the other one. But the new customer, the existing customer, by definition, has on average 1 more suit to give you, $5,000 worth of suit. The new customer, by definition, has $10,000, 2 suits worth of revenue to give you. Isn't that new customer worth more? Aren't they actually more efficient long-term, even though today in ROAS, they look less efficient? Aren't they in contribution margin, revenue growth, any other financial metric other than ROAS? Aren't they actually more future revenue? Aren't they more efficient by any definition other than ROAS? What other indicators can we look at to say efficiency other than ROAS? That is tricky. And that is the conversation I have. And it's difficult to have. And sometimes I do a good job and sometimes I don't do a good job. And sometimes the clients hear me and sometimes they have reasons not to listen to me. And it's not like I always know the answer and I'm doing this with them. I have to do it in partnership with them. But that's like super tricky to have that conversation around, like, is the green light you're looking at really green? Or is it, like, what's really going on over there? Sorry, that was a mouthful, but I get really passionate about this because it is my money that I invested in my company. I don't have a PE firm that's backing us.
Right. I love the way you talk the language of what you do. You talk the terms, but you make it very accessible, and you're very good at doing that kind of light bridge where here's the term, here's what that means in a more layman speak, or if someone's not familiar with the language. When you're talking to your clients, where are most of your clients on that arc? Are you having to really educate your clients about the type of things you're talking about, or are they coming in open-minded and ready to look at these types of things?
There's a lot of education that has to happen with the clients. And by the way, again, they often educate me and have great ideas that I haven't considered. And it's a two-way street. But about this topic specifically, there's a lot of education to the clients around it because really most of it comes from a board that's invested a certain amount of money and wants to see, maybe there's an operator at the company that's maybe also in the board from the private equity firm, and they've invested the money and they want to move forward. And coming back to this, so we have to talk to them about it. They might not want to hear it from me. Coming back to this idea though, where we've seen more plans. Yeah. One of the things people at Wharton are taught, well, I shouldn't say that. One of the things I've observed a number of CEOs from Wharton talk about is to look at the S1 filing when someone goes public. So let's talk about that for a second. That could be really sophisticated. If you sell nursing clothes to nurses, if you sell scrubs to nurses, probably super valuable to look at STIG's S1 statement, because in that S1, when they file with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, they have to disclose where they're spending money and how they're getting customers. It's part of what the form, like, this is how fast we've grown, here's what we've spent, here's what we did. It's useful to look at the S1 as a roadmap for where you want to be. However, STIGs went public, I don't know, actually 8 years ago. And so the roadmap that they're using is entirely different technology. It's an entirely different ecosystem that we're advertising in now. Different interest rates, because it's the same president, a different economy, different worldviews. iOS 14 is a thing that happens in our space. All these things are different. And so it's part of our job as the client. I love that you're looking at the S1. I'd never thought of that before. And one client introduced me from Wharton to that concept. It's great. But let's talk about what's different from then. And then that's tricky because so we're trying to educate them on it. And sometimes they have their own view of it, which is fine. They're entitled to have their own view. Our job is to execute on their vision once we've had a conversation about how we think it should go. Does that track the concept of looking at S1s being out of date and like?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I think in the current time frame, let's say the last 5 years, the pace of change has been on a definite upward trajectory, maybe even a parabolic arc. So you could really be stuck in some false beliefs or false ideas.
Yeah. Let me give you another example that we've talked about before, but it's instructive for myself because I learned a lot from it. So we have a client, a sophisticated client, raised the money on their own, controlled most of the equity, controlled the board as far as I could tell. And the client came in, the client had hired a perspicacious, diligent chief marketing officer, the CMO. And the CMO comes in and the CMO says, all right, we're about growth, just growth. I want, and they defined efficiency. I won't tell you their numbers, but let's just say it was 3-to-1 ROAS. I want 3-to-1 ROAS on everything we do. Okay. Great. I'm with you. Let's talk about what that means. And they said, well, any ad that's below 3 ROAS, you cut. And I said, okay, well, it's not my job to do what you ask. It's my job to give you my best advice and then do what you, right? So let's talk about that. What if an ad is the top of the sales funnel and it's not supposed to have a 3 ROAS? It's instead measured by reach or frequency or some other metric. And the client says, I don't care. cut it. It's below 3, cut it. Okay. One more thing. What if we're dealing with a carousel ad on Meta and we don't have the assets to replace it because the brand is very focused on is correctly focused and making sure their brand is represented exactly the right way? What if the design team has not had time yet to replace the asset and we're dark on carousel ads on Meta? And the client says, Brook, I'm listening to me, like below 3, cut it. Okay. Do we operate under that service level agreement for a couple of months? And eventually, as they're growing, that's the CMO, they hire a VP. And the VP is 1 week out of an agency. So her skills are a little more up to date. And the VP, not a senior, hasn't seen as many things, but the skills are a little more up to date. The VP spends 2 weeks investigating and says, Brook, I need to have a one-on-one with you. I know you're not day-to-day in our account, but I got to ask you some questions. Why are we not doing any top of the funnel advertising? And why are we not running any carousels? And the only, like, I knew the moment I had that conversation, I was like, oh, I'm going to get fired now. Because I don't know how to answer like your boss told me to. I think about it a lot. But like, should I have made them sign a letter that said, I don't advise, I would have gotten fired earlier. So that stuff does happen. And I appreciate that you're laughing. But I could see, I was running to get fired. But so those things do happen, and I try to work. Oh, it's funny. I'm telling you a little funny too, but I appreciate you laughing.
Oh my God, you got fired too. I'm like, oops, I laughed too soon. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
We've been talking customers a lot, so let's dive into the perfect customer. And let's say a solopreneur, lean startup founders listening right now, and they're overwhelmed by ad platforms, funnels, all the hype. Who's the exact kind of client who gets the biggest return working with you?
We have global multinationals as clients, like Casio and Marimekko, and have done some work with Italy. We also recently started working with a founder-led company based in Maine that makes organically grown, locally sourced cotton hand-stitched underwear. And both of those clients. I think the reality is that the small underwear brand is probably going to grow at a faster pace than Casio at this point. And I love Casio, and I'm thrilled to work with Casio. I also am thrilled to work with those solo entrepreneurs who have a real plan and a vision. And the thing that I think that sets them apart when they grow is not always financing. It's not even always products. It's two things. The first is, in no particular order, is willingness to try more ads, by which I mean in the current ecosystem of what we do for a living. And this wasn't the case 5 years ago, and it may not be the case in 5 years. But right now, what works is more creative. We have a definite philosophy about this. We have case studies on our website, but you need more creative. And so if you're willing to try many different things for creative, and you have to do it with intentionality, and you have to do it with intelligence, and you have to do it with diligence. I'm not saying throw anything up at the wall and see what sticks, but you need to do a lot of creative. So the clients that are willing to do a lot of creative are more likely to be successful in today's environment. And the other thing is, getting back to the business indicators are flashing green, but the underlying business is flashing red. What's wrong? The other thing is, I talk to this all the time with clients and prospects, is the goals of the new customer goals that someone has. So I see this as the single biggest difference between who's successful and who's not over team of us. Almost all of our clients have revenue goals. Some of them are by day, some of them are by hour, some of them by quarter, some of them by year. Almost all of our clients have revenue goals. Far fewer of our clients have new customer goals. And so if we take a look at the example I gave earlier, the dude company who was being efficient by remarketing to get one new customer, right? They were not growing fast enough, even though their ROAS was fantastic, because they had a target that was here. Anyone who's not watching, my hands are up above my head. They had a target that was up here, and they wanted to hit that target, but they didn't know how many new customers they needed to hit that target, because they were not going to hit that target if they were only looking at existing customers and trying to sell them a second. So it's willingness to try creative today. Again, not 5 years ago, maybe not in the future, I don't know. Right now, it's willing to try new creative. And it's defining your goals, not just as revenue, which almost everyone has, but defining your revenue goals further and saying what percentage of those units, orders, leads, students, purchases are going to come from new customers, and how much are we going to pay for those new customers? Is it worth paying a little more for a new customer, given that they're worth twice as much as an old customer? They cost 1.5 times more. Do I come out ahead? That's my main thing. It's not about a specific industry or it's not that skincare or, it's really about like, do you have new customer goals and are you willing to try new creatives? Does that answer it? And I just go in a big circle there.
That was amazing. You boiled it down perfectly. Are you willing to acquire new customers, or are you hyper focused on the sufficiency? So we're just going to beat your existing customer base to death. My words, not yours. Sorry, any of your customers who heard that.
Thank you.
Yes. And then are you willing to experiment, try creatives? Why don't you give me 30 seconds on creatives? Do lots of creatives, do more creative. Give me 30 seconds on that.
Sure. You don't get to decide what your customer likes. Your customer does. And you don't get to decide where your customer is. Your customer gets to decide that. So if you don't want to be on Twitter, which I understand, X.com, in the current political environment, I understand that impulse. I do. But some of your customers are there. And if you don't want to be on TikTok because you don't like the way your ads show up there, I get that. I do. And I'm not confused. I don't think luxury manufacturers, I don't think luxury skincare manufacturers are probably going to be in TikTok like that. But your customers are there. And so if you don't want to make creative, it's going to engage with them on those platforms, you are going to be missing out and someone else is going to get them. And so that means trying things like, do we know whether marvelous flat lays or crossbody product shots or light animation GIFs or AI assisted videos that were static turned into motion? Do we know which of those are better? Most clients don't. We talk a little bit with clients about a brand prison. And I'm very protective of our brand, and I get it. Again, all of our companies self-funded, but the concept of brand prison is, I don't want to try a new thing because my brand is so sacrosanct that I won't try a new ad. Okay, but no one knows who you are. So who are you protecting yourself against by not showing up? Like is it worth trying to do something a little different within your brand? God, I'm sure someone at Coca-Cola said, we don't want a polar bear in our ads. We sell happiness. Polar bears are vicious animals. Why would we have a polar bear in our ad? And that's a classic ad. They re-release it every year. The polar bears drinking the Coke around Christmas time, right? Around the holiday time. So like you have to be willing to try that stuff in a limited way to see how it's going to engage with people. That was more than 30 seconds. I apologize, Misha.
No, but that's good. That's a great answer. And I have friends who get stuck very myopically in protecting the brand, but you said it so well. It's like, well, you don't even have a big brand, so what are you protecting? And maybe it's a fear of failure, a fear of putting yourself out there, a fear of that testing and trying. I don't know. What do you think that block is for people?
I don't want to look. I don't want to say I talk about brand prison because it's cute. I mean, I have other like witty quips I could toss out, and I did say brand prison. Like we have a client now who's a high-end brand they're a sports-specific high-end brand. If you look at our website, you can figure it out. I don't want to go deeper than that. But they're a startup. They're doing all the right partnerships. They're working with all the right influencers. But their ad creative is very stylized. Beautiful, by the way. We didn't make it. Didn't hire us for it. They did it in-house. Their ad creative is gorgeous. It's these beautiful 70s style shots of the product highlighted in the best possible way. But it is not catching on with their consumers in the way that they'd like it to. And it's not because the audiences aren't right. And it's not because the budgets aren't high enough. It's because it's a new brand and no one knows what it is. And I think that they should try some other things. Like let's pretend they're a Formula One brand. They're not. Let's pretend they're a Formula One racing brand. I think they should show pictures of the cars going fast. I think they should show pictures of the drivers getting in and out of the cars. Because what they're doing now is showing beautiful pictures of the drivers sipping champagne after the race. This is a silly example, but you can hear what I'm saying. They should be, I'm not saying they should be off brand. They have their brand guidelines and those are sacrosanct and they should follow them. But given your guidelines and your font styles and what you stand for, what else can you do? How else can you get out of your comfort zone and try things? Because we also have clients that say, I don't care with my brand. I want to sell as much software as possible. What can you give me? And we'll try crazy things that stick out. And those clients are going from spending $5,000 a month to $500,000 a month profitably over the course of 4 months. Again, different businesses, right? This is literally, it's a software company. They don't care about their brand as much. They're like a different company. But there's something they could each learn from each other, right? The people that are in brand prison could maybe take a look at the software company. And maybe the software company is going to regret some of their decisions and they can take a step back and say, how do we focus more on the brand now? So it's a balancing act and there's no one right answer. There's no one size fits all for everyone.
It's good. And I thought you said brand prism, like
No.
a prism. So I was thinking, oh, this is like a creative thing. And you're like, no, you're stuck in brand prison. You need to get out of this prison. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's the biggest hesitation clients have before working with an agency like yours? Do people get stuck thinking, yeah, go ahead, go.
No, tell me, give me a prompt. What it is.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, are people thinking I'm not ready for high level strategy like this yet? Like they hear this and they're like, whoa, this is too much too soon. Or
I think the big thing is price generally. I think that I've never wanted to be anyone's cheapest shoe. I think there's a little tale about spending, I think it's called the cobbler's tale, and you could look it up. Anyone who's listening, there's a story about trying to spend the least amount of money on shoes, and maybe you buy the more expensive. This is an old story from like the 1400s. Maybe if you spend more on the nicer shoe, it'll cost more, but it'll last you 5 times as long. So it costs twice as much, but it lasted 5 times as long. You came out ahead, and so we're not anyone's cheapest shoe, nor are we the most expensive shoe, and we're not shy to say we cost what we cost, but we're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. We're pretty lean. I think generally it's price. I think also it's giving up control sometimes of your baby, which shouldn't be giving up control. Like you're the boss. Our job is to work on your behalf and work with you to drive success. So I think it's fear of letting someone else in your house, and also price. But yeah, we've been doing this for 17 years. Like we're successful more often than we're not. We have a lot of success stories, and so generally we have a pretty strong compass for what has been successful for other people, and generally can apply it to you as well.
That's so good. Short but sweet. I love it. We could end right there. Everybody go to masoninteractive.com. So misconception, or they're people, founders, these solopreneur brands, they're thinking, well, we're DIYing it. We're going to get a better ROI than handing it off to you. Are they stuck in that mindset a little bit too? Or
they are. There's one other thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this that I'd like to make sure I circle back to is like, there are laws of thermodynamics here. And sometimes people might not think this, but let's just say this out loud. And about half of our clients are schools, which we didn't talk about, which is great. It's cool. But half of our clients are schools, and about half of our clients are e-com brands and lean fashion. We have some beauty clients. We have a lot of skincare clients, but they lean fashioning, right? Lifestyle and fashion. And so we have about 60 clients, half schools, fashion brands. And I will die in the hill that it's a benefit to have an agency that understands schools, which is lead gen, and e-com, the fashion brands, because they're complementary skill sets. Anyway, here are some rules. Your revenue on your website is a function if you're an e-com brand. And even if you're a lead gen brand, it's kind of the same. But if you're an e-com brand, let's focus there. The revenue on your website is a function of how many orders you made times your average order value. It just is, right? The number of orders you have is a function of how many people added to cart. The number of people that added to cart is a function of how many people are on your website. You cannot add to cart without being in the website. You cannot order without adding to cart. So revenue is orders times AOV, which is a function of add to cart, which is a function of how many people are on your website, which is a function of how many people see your website or see an impression or serve an impression about you. Some of those are better than others. Some of those are people who know your brand and type it in directly in Google. Super valuable. Some of them are influencers. But that is it's not debatable. It's someone sees you, someone visits you, someone adds a cart, someone buys. Is the chain of events. If you want 10 times the sales, you're going to need 10 times the people to see you. That's just how it's going to work. Maybe you need 9 times the people because we'll get more efficient and we'll figure out some ideas around marketing and we'll figure out maybe it'll be 8 times the people, but it ain't going to be twice the people to get 10 times the sales. It ain't going to be 3 times. You need more people you need more sales. You need more people to add to cart, which means you need more people on your website, which means you need more people to see you. So that's true. There is a misconception sometimes that there might be a silver bullet that someone has. Like we fired our last 3 agencies after 4 months because they didn't solve our business. We're hoping you'll do it. How are you going to turn around our sales? Like what is the magic button you're going to hit? And we say we have a script. We say during our sales process, there is no magic button. We have technology. We have a product suite. We have a philosophy. We have case studies. We have a method. But we don't have the success button that someone else forgot to hit. And so there is sometimes a misconception there that if anyone's not watching and just listening, I'm glad I'm trying to be funny, so I appreciate it. But there is a misconception that there's like a magic button sometimes or a silver bullet, and there's not. Hard work and it's diligent and it's testing and it's trying new things. And that's a misconception people have too. Even though we talk about it in the sales process, they sometimes don't necessarily internalize it, but that's okay. That's our job to work with them anyway and work with.
Yeah. Are you turning people away saying fundamentally your business sucks? I can't help you. It doesn't matter. We don't have this button. And does that question make sense?
Do we turn people away for business? Yes. I think we take something. Yes, we turn people away at this point. And we always have for ethical reasons, but now we turn people aside for ethical reasons. We'll turn them aside for not a good fit reasons. A year ago, we acquired a company in Los Angeles that deals with very small business. Like, if you say to me, hey, Brook, I really like working with you. I have a friend that just started working just moved to Brooklyn, and I opened a juice shop. Could you help them? The truth is, I couldn't help your friend's juice shop in Brooklyn. But this other agency we acquired in LA could, because they deal with much smaller clients. So we acquired them so we could deal with clients like that. But for the most part, and they're off on the side as part of our team now. But yes, we do turn people down because it's not a good. We'll try anything, but yes is the answer. But we don't tell them that their business has fundamental flaws. We tell them that at this time we think that what we say to them is, I would like you to be a good friend of mine in 5 years, and I don't know that the way you're staffed right now is most likely going to make that happen. That's how we talk about it.
Hey, anybody that wants to see if their business plan is viable, call Brook and see if he'll take you on as a client. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Hey, so you hire this company. Just the way you said it, you acquire this company in LA. They deal with smaller brands, so you can grow that. But you made it sound like you just put him in the closet a little bit. You're like,
no, I did. Well, it's astute of you. We acquired that company for a number of reasons. One of which was we really liked their founder. We really liked a bunch of their employees. And we really liked a bunch of their clients. We also, so I just named 4 things. We also liked the way they operationalize small clients. After working with them and owning them for 16 months, the small clients part of it is something we decided not to focus on as much. The other reasons, we like the founder, we like the employees, we like the culture, we like their clients. Those still remain, right, after a year and a half. And so, yeah, you're astute to hear that from me. I didn't say you're right to hear it because I sort of implied it accidentally. So good for you. We did sort of say, all right, we're not going to necessarily handle those sorts of. We'll take small clients again. Like we work with very small clients, but we need people that have if someone comes to us and they say, my entire financial future hedges upon selling this book, that's not.
Hey, again, if you want to check the viability of your business plan, go to masoninteractive.com, click hire us, and see if they'll take you on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, you've got to have budget. You've got to be willing to try new things, try the creative. And you said those two key things
Yeah,
earlier.
but the budget's not even the biggest part of it. Like so like just to circle back on that, like we have clients that have come to us and said we're VC backed. Clients will say, how much did we spend? I don't know. And there's a better answer than I don't know. But your goals are what matters first, and then we can figure out how much and the goals are different. So we have clients that have said, all I need to do is to break even on my first unit, because I'm confident that as I do new drops, and our business plan is that as we do new drops over the course of years, we will grow. And I want to achieve a certain velocity, and I want to be spending $2 million a month in ads on my brand. It could be a school, it could be a shoe company. And I want to spend $2 million a month profitably to acquire customers because I want to exit in 5 years. And if I'm not growing 33% a year or 50% a year or 60% a year, I'm failing. And so I'm willing to just break even on each thing. We have customers that say that. We also have customers, the other hand, that say, this is my business. This is self-funded. It has to be profitable every day. And if it's not profitable every day, I will not be able to survive, and I need to be profitable in every order. If I had those two people in a room, those two CEOs, I'm thinking about two specific clients, they would each say the other's doing it wrong, right? The one that's saying, all I need to do is capture market share and grow hand over fist would say to the other one, what are you doing? Why aren't you growing fast enough? And the one who has to protect their investment and is family owned and every dollar is their own was the other one, what are you doing? You need to be at a 5 ROAS instead, right? And both of them are right. And I like both of those clients. The only thing I'll say is they're going to grow at different velocities. The person whose mantra is grow at all costs, I'll make it up later. They're just going to grow. They're have a different growth trajectory than someone who says, I need to preserve capital because this is my dollar. I love both of those clients. We'll work with both of them, but they do have different. So those are both totally valid, but just different growth trajectories depending on their ROI focuses. Does that track? Am I talking sense there?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share a before and after story that illustrates how your strategy changes the game? One of those holy macro moments where someone is like, wow, this actually works. Spending $1 million a month on ads.
I think the more recent thing now is, well, we actually hired a data professor from an Ivy League university to help us with some stuff and visualizing it. I realized that it sounds self-serving if I, as an advertising professional, say, let's try a test on YouTube. I think the biggest thing that's working for us now as an example of our philosophy is there's a case study on our website about taste coffee roasters. So I think everyone knows what Keurig cups are, K-cups. I think everyone knows they go in the trash. Taste Coffee Roasters sells compostable Keurig cups, and they sell to small businesses. They will sell to individuals, and they also sell to hotels and ballrooms. Let's talk about efficiency. The bottom of your sales funnel, people have already been to your website, whether that's a house or a hotel that wants to buy a bulk order for the next 6 months or whatever. People have already been to your website and or purchased in the past that aren't purchasing now. That is the bottom of their sales funnel. That is the most efficacious, highest return on investment part of their. On Meta, that ad spend is charged by the impression, not the click. So there is a defined number of people. I don't know off the top of my head, but I could look it up. There's a number of people. It is a number of people that meet that criteria of past customers who aren't customers now, plus 90-day website visitors, plus people that added the cart in the past 120 days and didn't buy. Look, that's the bottom of their funnel, and it is a knowable, finite number. Meta doesn't care if you show those people an ad and you click or you don't. They're going to charge you based on the size of that audience and how many times you hit the audience. Therefore, it behooves us to have the catchiest creative possible to get the actual click, because they don't care if you get a 5% click-through rate or a 1% click-through rate. So that tracks. What we did with Taste was we launched the bottom, it's on our website, the bottom of their sales funnel in Meta had a click-through rate of 0.5%. It's like 0.49, so 0.5%. And so what we did is we tried a lot of different creators, tossed them into Advantage Plus Shopping and remarketing, and let the AI decide which of the ads was the best. And we knew the answer to that. The AI is pretty good at that. What we didn't know was why that ad was the best. Okay? So we can't make more creative like it if we don't know why the AI liked it. So we tried a lot. This is the ad that worked. And then what we did was we iterated on that, and it takes a patient client to do this. We iterated on that by saying, all right, I'm going to isolate variables and I'm going to see what works best. I know this is my best ad, and now I'm going to try just the headline. I'm going to try 4 headlines. Now I'm going to find a winner. Okay, now I've got the best ad and the best headline. Now I'm going to isolate product shops. Is it bees? Is it cups? Is it whatever? And you go through these steps and you isolate each piece. And along the way, our click-through rate went from 2% to 4% at the bottom of their sales funnel. That is a big increase in efficiency from the most important part of your sales channel, remarketing at the bottom of your funnel on Meta. That is a real success story. That is really driving real business impact. And credit to them, and kudos to them for having the stomach to go through it, because testing means failing. Testing means I'm going to try these ads over here, and I'm accepting that of the 5 I'm trying, 4 of them are going to be worse than the winner. And I will not know the answer until I put them into market and I see and I find out what the winner is. So that's a real example of someone who's doing very well by having the stones to stick with it and the stomach to stick with it and isolate variables to find out what works best.
You're like, oh my God, we're isolating variables. This is amazing. This is epic.
I really love it. It's exciting because it's like it drives real success in the business. And then you can talk to a client with intelligence and you can say, this is the ad that's best. And here's why, right? Like, you're no longer saying like, this is my hunch. And I love big creative campaigns too. We just did a commercial for a Swiss watch brand. The watch cost $250,000. We did a whole production for the watch. We hired a whole system. Our creative director did a great job on it. That's a different thing than direct-to-consumer, direct response funnel optimization. And I love both of those things. They're both a lot of fun to dig into.
Most overrated marketing trend right now.
Third-party audience solutions. Sorry, anyone who's listening who's works there are a number of things that will say the problem with the advertising is your audience isn't targeted enough. Metas and Google are going to charge you to take you the audience they want to make them the most money, which is true. Waiting for not monopolies, they're acting like one. And there's a number of third parties that will say our solution sits on top of them to drive you a more tailored audience. They generally don't drive business impact. In the case, they sometimes do. Sometimes they're a home run, but they're not usually a good hit. And often the incremental lift they provide is obviated by the cost of the platform. So the number one trend that I'm seeing right now that doesn't work the most is I'm going to pay $15,000 extra per month for an audience solution that sits on top of my existing Meta ads. Meta does a good job with audiences. They don't need third parties help.
Love that. A brand you don't work with but admire.
Oh, so many. I would love to work with Alden Shoes. They are made in America shoe company, made by hand. I love the idea of a dying art and a dying craft. And I went back to the shoe analogy earlier about the cobbler. Maybe spend more on the first pair of shoes than the left. But when I was after college, I drove a cab for a living. I went to Columbia University. And then I took that Ivy League degree and I drove a yellow cab in New York City. This is before Uber and before credit cards were available. So it was fun. I learned a lot. And one of the things I did is I saved up for a pair of Alden shoes, which were at the time the most expensive thing I could possibly imagine. And they lasted me 10 years. Like I wore them every day for 10 years, and like that was a great value. If you look at the cost per wear, they were cheaper than Converse. They were like, they lasted for. And so, I love their products, and I love the way the company's run, and I love supporting a made in America company, and I love supporting something that's handmade and is a fair price and not exorbitant. I mean, it depends on your perspective, but I would love to work with Alden Shoes.
Beautiful. What's something about agency life nobody talks about?
Nobody in the agency or on the client side? Which
I don't know about your life. I mean, I think anybody listening to this is going, wow, you are killing it. For one, you're having amazing conversations with I don't know, lots of successful companies. I mean, it seems in this moment like, oh boy, this is the great life, but
It's very fast paced. We've lost really great employees who said, really great colleagues who said, this pace is too much. I'm going to go in house and work in house as a client because I don't want to deal with this. And I'm not complaining about it. The clients, I like how fast paced it is. I like the hecticness of it. It is true that every client thinks they're the most important client, and most of them are. And it is true that even if you have negotiated contracts that say you have to give us your assets 24 hours before launch, it is true that they will give them to you at 8 o'clock the night before the launch, and you will have to get them live, and you will miss dinner with your friends. That does happen a lot, and that's part of the job, right? And so I think another way of phrasing that is sometimes I'll talk to clients that I've become friends with over the years, still work with. So you work with someone a long time, you have dinners, you become friendly, and they'll say, "Well, you've got it easy at the agency." You know how many Halloweens I missed because clients decided to launch a Halloween, like literally. You know how many Halloweens I missed with my now 16-year-old kid because the clients would, 4 o'clock on Halloween day, so the promo's ready and we had to get it like it is very fast paced, and it is very aggressive, and it's very dynamic to the point where it's just, anyway, that's something I think that maybe people don't on the outside. By the way, I'm hoping they don't see it. Like I would like on the outside for it to look like smooth sailing. But it is true that making it look like smooth sailing for a client often takes a big internal lift with a lot of moving pieces that need to be coordinated.
your 17-year-old son, is he looking at dad and saying, I want to follow in his shoes, or no way, I'm going to go do X?
My son is named Mason. The company is named Mason. That's not a coincidence. Mason thinks that my wife and I, she's a high school principal, my wife, she runs a bigger and more complex organization than I do. Today, her school was ranked 12th best public high school in New York City by, I forget what survey, forgive me, Janetta. She's very successful. My son looks at the two of us and says that we work too much. And so he would like to work less. So he wants to go into finance. So he's decided that he's going to go into finance. He wants to go to school in London so that he can go work in finance and he can work harder for less time, and then he can retire early because he doesn't want my wife and I's age. And still, I gladly, by the way, I work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I'm happy to do that. I like my job, but I work a lot, and my wife works a lot too. And so my son's view it. He's going to avoid what we're doing. He's going to work less by going into finance. And then he knows he's going to work more, but he's going to retire earlier, as opposed to me, who drove a cab first and took a few years to figure it out. He's going to start earning right off the bat.
Oh my God. Well, let's just say, hey, what's the one thing that in agency life that nobody talks about? You actually work more than finance. That's horrible. Oh my gosh. What's something you believe deeply about marketing that would get you kicked out of a digital agency conference?
Well, it depends on the conference. I think TV is probably a better place to be advertising for a lot of clients. By the way, we can get you on TV. And what a lot of our best clients are doing Netflix ads and Peacock ads right now. But I think that what would get me kicked out? You need to diversify between Google and Meta. To rely on a duopoly for all of your sales is foolish. Those companies are profits for themselves first, and you second. The user second, you a distant third. You need to diversify, and if you're not constantly testing other platforms, you're going to be dead in the water. I'm sure some people listening would say, well, that's the kind of thing they say at digital marketing platforms, the digital marketing summits, but it's not. A lot of the meetings that I go to that are industry wide are like talking about the best way to optimize which widget you can add on to the platforms. A lot of like I said before, a lot of that third party. The question, sort of circling around it, but a lot of that third-party add-on software doesn't really work, and that is not a popular opinion. A lot of people do not want to hear me say that those third-party add-on things do not work. What really works is getting more people into your ecosystem, and sometimes TV and radio are a cheaper way to do that, and we do TV and radio. Sometimes TV and radio are a cheaper way to do that than another Instagram ad.
So good. Streaming fits into the TV bucket. So,
Yeah.
okay, cool. At this point, we're all we're all of those of us of a certain age. When we say TV, some people are still battling TV versus streaming, but we're lumping that all together now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the standard things I say in my sales pitches, like, and I ask people, I don't do most of the sales these days. I have a great sales team and they handle most, but if they're on vacation, I'm taking a call. Prospects come in. I mentioned earlier the example of the sophisticated, smart CMO that hadn't worked in an agency in 5 years. So their skills were, in my opinion, they didn't agree with my opinion. But my opinion was they were a little out of date, thinking about ROAS first above all else. If it's below 3, cut it. And then the VP came in who had more recent hands-on keyword skills and said, well, here's a different way of looking at it. Why are these things possible? Right? So those things are true. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I forget where I was going with that. I deeply apologize.
It's okay. We were talking about where were we going? Well, I was just taking a note that there was a nugget that you dropped in there, and the nugget of the whole episode might be Netflix ads and Peacock ads are killing it right now for a customer. Go ahead.
The nut might be there's undeniable thermodynamics at work here. If you want to get twice as many sales, you're going to need twice as many orders, and that means you're going to need to get twice as many people on your website, and you can't get away from that reality. And that's the real takeaway that not everyone wants. I remember what I was saying. It was about sorry, just to go back to this. One of the things I say to people that most people will come into our ecosystem saying, I want to be heavy in Meta. I've got an authorization from my boss, the CMO and the CFO signed off. We're going to spend $100,000 a month on digital advertising, and I want to do 90% Meta, 10% Google. That's a real thing that people will say, and I'm happy to do that. But one of the things I'll push back on is, hold on a second. You just said 90% Meta. In your own personal life, what percentage of and this ties back to this, Misha, I promise. In your own personal life, I'll ask them, what percentage of your digital media consumption is Meta, right? Like of all the time you spend connected to the internet, how much of it is Meta? And really heavy power users will say like 80%. And I'll say, cool. For me, it's like 10%. Because watching the Premier League with my son on Peacock is a bigger thing. Listening to podcasts like yours on the jog this morning here in beautiful Montenegro is a bigger part of it. I'm on Instagram all the time, but it's not 90% of my media consumption. And therefore, why is it 90% of your budget? Like let's just walk through this for a second. If you told me that you're a power user and you spend 70% of your time there, why is this 90% of your budget? And so maybe part of it is connected to game streaming. Maybe people do spend more time watching Netflix than they spend on Instagram. Although maybe it's 2 in 1, right? But let's have a real view of where our consumers actually are, and let's not just jump right into saying Instagram is the right place. Let's tie it all back. Big said it was in their S1 with the SEC 10 years ago. It must be for us now. Let's do more of the same. So that's the perspective I'd like to bring to the conversation. So,
do you know how freakishly smart you are?
Push. It's very sweet of you to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Do you actually sometimes have awareness of that, or
never? I'm surrounded with people that are smarter than me all the time, so never. But thank you for saying that.
Yes. What's a recent moment where you thought, if my clients knew this was happening behind the scenes, they would freak out?
I will say that we have a great HR team. HR reports is one of the 5 people that reports to me directly. So we have a really good system. When people come in and we could do better. There's a lot we could do better. People come in as analysts, which is the entry level at Mason. They're expected to learn a certain number of tasks before they are considered for managers. There's a list that doesn't look. Here's the things, laundry list of things you could learn. We expect you to learn 75% of them because everyone's going to have different focuses. It really is a list of like 100 things. Here's 70. Do 75 so your manager's capacity. Do your manager's assessment that you can do it well. And then we can talk about becoming an account manager, and then the account manager becomes supervisor. This is not that. I think some clients might, if they knew how long it took. We move on to these people. Right? I try very hard to treat people like I'd like to be treated. I try very hard to do unto others as I would have done to me. I'm not always successful, but I try. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt so they can change. I would hope if a client had a problem with me, they would tell me so I could fix it. It is more likely that if you tell me what your problem is, I will fix it than if you don't tell me. So we operate that way with our staff. And if someone's not doing what we think they should be doing, we will tell them and say, I'm not saying you're doing bad. I'm saying it's my job just to help you assess this. And I don't think you're doing this well. And if I didn't tell you that, I'd be doing the wrong thing. And so I think that there might be clients who would be annoyed that the analysts on their account aren't progressing fast enough, and then it ends up being picked up by a senior person, which, by the way, is the service we provide. If that person doesn't do it, we're going to do it, as opposed to if you're in-house, you got one person, they screw it up your toast. So I think some clients might be like, that analyst that I spoke to didn't do what? And then, we give those people coaching, we give them coaching, we give them chances, and then ultimately we have to be kind of ruthless. If someone's not cutting it, we're not a family, we're a sports team. And if there's a better midfielder available at a better price for our team, we're going to draft that midfielder.
It's good. AI is freaking you out. Like you're losing sleep over it, or this is the best tool ever. Bring on sentience.
For my job, I don't worry about it because I don't get a vote. We're pretty heavy into it. We have a lot of AI processes. We've got a lot of things running in the background. Some clients demand that we use no AI, although it's changing. Some clients demand we use more AI. The clients get to decide that. But that's in terms of like the production of assets, really. We've had clients say, we're hiring you for this photo shoot, no AI. Or we've had clients say, keep the price down, all AI. It's cool, we'll do it at one. We have a whole creative team, they'll do it at once. Great. But in terms of my job, I don't worry about it. I do think that it will level the playing field, but I still think it's about the intelligence one applies to the ideas and not about like the ability to turn out stuff quickly. Sentience scares me tremendously. Yeah, that's a late at night death conversation. Yeah, I'm terrified. Because the other day, if I could upload my entire consciousness, if I could take everything I've written on Instagram, cell phone, text messages, Slack, emails, everything I've read on my Kindle, I could put all that into a ChatGPT instance now. I'm pretty sure that it would give a really good simulacra of my answers, right? Like if I were not here and someone wanted to be like, what would Brook say? I'm pretty sure you get pretty close. It wouldn't be thinking, it wouldn't be creative, it wouldn't be inventing, but it would. So that's one thing. And that's ghoulish, the idea that I would upload my history into a robot to repeat after me to make other people feel comfortable. And also it's presumptuous that anyone would care what I was saying when I was done. And then the second thing was, okay, what if we could actually upload our own consciousness to live alongside a sentient thinking machine? We told this last night. Well, what would happen? And I think the answer is you'd be stuck in a box forever and no one would care. No one's going to care about my opinion in 100 years. And so the idea that like I should be uploaded to live forever as a sentient robot alongside an artificial intelligence, it seems like you're dooming yourself to an eternity of being ignored. And I think that existentially, you probably go, that wouldn't be like a great, right? Am I wrong? That wouldn't be a great existence, would it? Like no one's going to talk to me.
Okay.
I've listened to other interviewers and I'm glad my jokes are landing, but I'm glad
Yeah. Why on some of the other ones are they not landing? And I'm feigning.
I'm glad. I'm very happy to be there.
Okay. Good. I'll go. All right. What's the question? What's the question you get asked on podcasts all the time and secretly wished you never had to answer again?
Oh, there's nothing. I'm really happy to be talking to everyone. And sincerely, I do get asked a lot about my favorite books. And I feel like but that's sort of an easy question. No, I'm thrilled that anyone wants me on. I'm thrilled to answer all the questions. Really, there was a conversation I had a few weeks ago where someone wanted to goad me into my opinions about the United States current administration. And I was trying desperately to avoid it because one, I don't think it matters. And two, I don't think there's anything to gain from it. But that's not a question that's asked all the time. So I think I avoided it.
I love it. Talk to me about it doesn't matter or you don't think it matters, because I like that concept.
Uh, administration.
Yeah.
So I'll have private conversations with clients where we can talk about my views about things, and anyone who talks to you for 5 seconds knows where I come down stuff. I've tried to be as neutral as I can.
Well, let me help you. Let's just say
everyone's
this,
in the same boat.
yeah. No. I was going to say people get myopically fixated on the president or this administration is going to have this effect on the long-term viability of the country or my health or my finances or this and that, when in reality, that might not be the case. That's what I heard you say when you said, well, I don't think it actually matters in the moment.
No, I don't think my opinion matters. I think what's going on in the country, no matter what administration you have, matters. I think we're one of the leading countries in the world. I have a lot of opinions. If you read some blog posts I've written about higher education and how the great thing about the United States is certainly not its cuisine or its architecture, despite the fact that our food's gotten a lot better. It's not like people come to the United States. They come to the United States for education. And that's what's made us, that's why Sergey Brin started Google here. And that's why Elon Musk moved here, right? And like, forget the politics of those individual people. People have come to the United States. Einstein came here. People come to the United States because there's an academic environment where they can achieve. And if we are in a population decline, it seems like we should acknowledge that. And there's some obvious solutions to getting more students into schools that center around immigration. That's as political as I'll get. Is that we want to be a leading light for the entire world, where people from other places and our own country want to excel, and we can have a great education system, because I think that's what's best about the United States. Again, I don't think it's our cuisine, although it might be fine. So it's not that I don't think it matters. It's that I think that these tariffs are hitting everyone. And I realize that some people have been able to move factories more quickly. And I realize so it's not really the same for everyone. And I understand that. But everyone's paying the same tariffs if you manufacture in the same place. So it's not like it's a competitive disadvantage that all of a sudden you're being hit this way. I'm not commenting here if I like it, if I agree or I don't like it. I'm giving no opinion on that at all. What I am saying is all of your competitors are facing the same tariffs. So good or bad, it's not a competitive disadvantage that your prices just went up. So did everyone else's. That's what I mean when I say it doesn't matter. It's not that I don't think the Biden administration and Trump administration, I think those things don't matter. It's that I think my opinion on what they're doing with tariffs is not relevant to my job, because they're doing it anyway. And so then how do we coach clients to success with it?
I love it. I love that. That's amazing. And I was not trying to goad you into political commentary. I think what I heard in your answer speaks to two things. I heard what I wanted to hear. I heard it as a broader existential comment of, well, it really doesn't matter if you look at the long-term life cycle of things, right? What you're saying, no, I think my opinion about the whole thing doesn't matter. So and I appreciate that. And I love your perspective on people coming here because of the education ecosystem. I'm not saying it as well as you did, but you just gave me new insight into how you said that was beautiful, is what I'm trying to say. I can't.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So yeah, I love that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. Since 2018, something like 1 million fewer people have been born every year on average. So before in the United States, for the 17 years preceding 2008, there was something like 4 million people born each year, and it goes up and down, obviously. Since 2008, due to a host of economic factors, probably kicked off by the great housing influence recession of 2008, instead of 4 million people a year, there've been something like 3 million people a year born. 17 years. That's 17 million fewer consumers that exist for higher education specifically, and for other products. So schools face what's called a population cliff. There are just 17 million fewer people in market for education. And since 2008, that means they're like high school seniors and juniors now. It means they're going to be freshmen in college in a year or two. So colleges are going to have a harder time filling their seats because there are millions of fewer. There's going to be 1 million fewer starting in 2026 or 25, depending on how you look at it, depending on what your birthday is. There'll be 2 million fewer in 2027. There'll be 3 million fewer in 2028. But this is a mathematical fact. It's not in any way debatable. There are fewer people born. So the solution then, if you're a college and you're used to having 4 million new people born each year into your ecosystem. And now you have 3 million born. So you've got a 25% decline in the number of people that could apply to your school. And later on, it's going to be buying shoes and buying sneakers and going on vacation. But right now, it's for schools. If there's a quarter fewer of them, I'm not worried if I'm Stanford, from MIT, if I'm a great state school like our client, Florida State. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about community colleges, but I'm a middle of the road liberal arts college. And I believe very strongly in the liberal arts education. But if I'm in the middle of the road liberal arts college and I cost $70,000 a year to go to, and now there's so many 1/4 fewer, there's 25% fewer people that exist who apply to my program, I'd be very worried. And especially with the way people are looking at, students are looking at ROI in their education, I'd be very worried about it. And there's an obvious solution, but it's just math. You either need to raise your prices and the students that are left to make the same money, but it's not math, or you need more students. And if there are 1/4 fewer students, where are you going to get those students from? The answer historically has been overseas, but that in the current administration, the current political climate, seems like it'll be more challenging. And maybe it won't. Maybe it's going to change soon. But that's the way I think about that.
That's good. Yes, love that. Thank you for that perspective. Earlier, you talked about your early days, how it shaped your agency philosophy. If you could go back and whisper one insight to your past self when you were first pitching clients, what would it be?
Changed so much. I have a lot of advice for myself pitching things because I know how bad I was and how bad I am still and how much better I can get. So we're talking about 17 years ago, what would I talk to clients about? If I could whisper to my past clients 17 years ago, I would say, hey guys, Facebook's about to come around. I have a time machine. Facebook's going to come around the corner in a year or two as a major advertising force. Let's get ready for it and let's think intelligently about it. And let's not just be focused on likes. Let's be focused on how it's going to impact our media mix. What I wish I would have said to them.
What would you have said to yourself? What would you say to yourself if you could go back to top 2 things? Could be life. Yeah, go ahead.
We started the agency with the idea that we started the agency by saying, because my business partners had this perspective. I'm getting really dating myself. Before Meta it was Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook ads. So Facebook ads, 20 years, 19 years ago, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, Facebook ads were largely right rail ads and sometimes newsfeed ads. And the way to make it work, to have an ROI to it, people weren't buying from Facebook. The way to make it have an ROI, return on investment, was to do a data capture play and email them later and just say to clients, AdWords is great. I'm a Google AdWords expert. I'm doing it for years. Facebook's next. This is what we pick to people. And so what we're going to do is not just pitch you on likes, because I don't think likes move your needle. They will eventually, as the top of the funnel indicator, but you need money now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a gated campaign. And anyone who's my age who's doing this long, I remember with work. You need to offer everyone who signs up for your campaign the chance to win a free trip to Tahiti. And or a $500 gift card to Applebee's, or an Amazon gift card, or that way Amazon just post. But we need to offer something in exchange for signing up for our contest on Facebook. And in exchange, we're going to get your email, and we're going to market to you, and you get the chance to win a great prize. That was what we went to market with at Mason Interactive when we started 17 years ago. Was search, social to make money, and that means collecting emails, and that means sending emails out after those people came in. I will tell you that pitch, which is a good business idea that my business partners did well for a company they later sold to private equity, that pitch did not land in the ecosystem. That's what we spent a year and a half, like thick-headed, trying to convince clients to do that, and they didn't want to hear it. Maybe it was my pitch. Maybe my pitch was too convoluted. Maybe I didn't seem convincing enough. Maybe it was too complicated for them because they were just looking for click sale. But I spent a year and a half working on that pitch with my business partners and going to market, and it did not land. And I wish in hindsight I'd given it up a lot earlier because I wasted a year and a half just beating a dying horse.
That's a beautiful answer. If data and creativity got into a bar fight, who wins and why?
Creative all the time. We're going to find out a better way to do it. What do you mean? Yeah. Like a real bar fight or like a Westworld bar fight?
I would say real bar fight.
Yeah, real bar fight, creative is going to win because they're going to think about a clever way to hit you when you're not looking. If you give data enough time, I just believe in a big idea, and I believe in new thoughts, and I believe in an idea. I believe in creativity and new idea.
It's good. Brooke, Brooke, where can people go to connect with you, peek under the hood of Mason Interactive, or see how you think in real time?
I appreciate that. We've got a lot of engagements of us up on Mason Interactive's YouTube account, our website, masoninteractive.com, one word, masoninteractive.com. There's a bunch of case studies up there. Anyone who writes this website, I will get that email. My team and I will respond, but I will be part of the team that gets the emails. And you can always follow me on LinkedIn, but really the best place to see our work and our case study and who we work with and the difference between our multinational clients, who I love, and our small mom and pop clients, who I also love, is to go to our website, masoninteractive.com.
Perfect. Everybody go to masoninteractive.com, click hire us, and as a bonus, you will find out if your business is viable. Everybody, that's a wrap of this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. Big thanks to Brook Shepard for bringing the heat and the truth. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and check out masoninteractive.com to go deeper. Until next time, stay focused, stay bold, and let's go speak on some podcasts. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.